My friends, the wait is finally over. Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave is releasing September 17th, 2026, exclusively on the Switch 2. If that's all you want to know, by all means, feel free to click away now, though I do ask that you leave a like and maybe subscribe to the channel if you would be so kind before you go. But if you would like to know the full breakdown of everything we've learned from the story, new mechanics, the setting, the special limited edition, and everything else, then watch on. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman, and welcome back to the channel. This new trailer dropped in the June 9th, 2026 Nintendo Direct, and it gives us a lot of new insight into what exactly is going on in this world of, as we now know, Dagda, the home country of Shamir, one of my favorite characters from Fire Emblem Three Houses, and one that we know extremely little about until today. We're going to go through all the details of the setting and the story, discuss a little bit about the visuals, the music, some of the new characters that we've seen, and of course deep dive all the mechanics that we can now learn a little bit more about. As always, I will have specific timestamps for each of these sections in the description of the video and in the play bar, so if you want to jump to a particular section, please feel free to do so. They'll all be labeled appropriately so you know where it is you're trying to go. But first, let's talk about what that special edition entails for you real quick, shall we? So the special edition is currently live for pre-orders on Nintendo's website, and it will get you the game, obviously, though we don't know if this is a key card yet or not, so keep that in mind for those of you who are bothered by these things. A bunch of character art cards, a map of Dagda, an art book, and a steelbook case for the game. Its current pre-order price is $120 US, which is honestly not too terrible for a special edition, honestly, especially because you're getting the game with it. But of course, who knows how long it will be available for purchase, so I would recommend going and checking that out immediately as you watch this video if you are interested in picking it up. With that said, what story and setting details do we have? As mentioned, we're going to Dagda, to the south of Fodlan, though relatively close to Fodlan, all things considered, as we can see here from this map that the good folks at Serenus Forest put together that overlays the maps of Fodlan and now Dagda that we have. So not super disconnected from each other, enough that our boy Dietrich had to make a boat trip to get here, but not like unreasonable. Definitely in the same world, fairly close geographically. Dagda is explicitly stated as a realm that is still ruled by the gods, which was a very interesting connotation on our boy Dietrich, stating later in the trailer that his blade, the hero's relic-looking sword Answerer, is an heirloom from his Fodlan ancestors that is meant to slay gods. With this, of course, does make sense given the story of Fire Emblem Three Houses, but it does make you wonder if that's the real reason he made the journey across the sea and not this big tournament that everyone else is taking part in, and he is, but like maybe doesn't care too much about. We've also learned the very important detail that Fortune's Weave is in fact a sequel. The date is shown here as 1449, which places this game 264 years post the end of Three Houses, which obviously is a very large time jump, but it is going to allow us to explain why things like crests, some descendants of crests, the appearance of holy relics, etc., is possible. It's important to note as well, the official product page for Fortune's Weave has a small blurb that talks about this being a time-traveling adventure, so I don't know how that we should take that super literally at the moment. Maybe we need to, I don't really know. Nothing about what we've seen thus far would really tell me that we are time-traveling, but that might be a little bit of a spoiler twist that they didn't mean to put in the product description, or maybe they did, who knows. But if it is intended to be there and time travel is a major part of the plot, you can color me concerned. We'll have to see if there's anything that actually corroborates that as we move forward. I'm a little scared though. We'll be able to choose any of the four main protagonists that have been previously shown off, Kai, Theodora, Letta, and of course Dietrich, to control through the heroic games, the winner of which gains a single wish. Now, we don't yet know if these are total route splits, a la Three Houses, or if it's just a change in your point of view of the story, potentially some exclusive missions, some exclusive recruits, that type of thing, a little bit more route split light, if you will. We'll have to see. It would be quite the ambitious endeavor to have 4 fully fledged routes, but who knows? Maybe they're going to go for it. Regardless, though, it appears that some disruptions are going to wind up occurring when this unknown individual here opens a portal to, quote, the underworld, summoning what appears to be undead, giants, maybe demons, to attack. That is, until this avatar character, and we'll talk about that in a second, named Eshmel, drops from the sky like an actual, literal angel to destroy one of the giants. Of course, with these shining white robes and the feathers and the golden light, they do look extremely angelic, and they also appear to be wielding what almost looks like a crestless, destroyed sword of the creator that was forged into the spear tip for this weapon. It's hard to get really clear shots to compare between what we've seen of the sword of the creator and what this weapon is, but there's definitely some design similarities, so I've got some big questions about that. Now, we do know that this is an Avatar character, as on the box art seen in the official key art here, we can see what definitely looks like two different versions of the character, one male and one female, just like Byleth, Corrin, Robin, etc. Sothis herself describes him as the promised one who will guide the living to salvation, so again, very godly, angelic, and all of this, as well as their design, tells me that Eshmel is quite literally an angel in the service of Sothis, or something extremely equivalent, even if they don't use that exact terminology. Speaking of which, Sothis does seem to be back at full power, wielding an axe as she strikes down someone she describes as the darkest of darks who upheaved the world. Could this mean that this woman that we see opening the portal, or someone she serves, is maybe an Agarthan, or an agent of those who slither in the dark, perhaps? We'll have to find out, but I certainly hope so we can learn more about them and what happened to them canonically post Three Houses, now that we know that this is a direct sequel. I've also seen some people theorizing that Sothis is actually going to be the villain here. I don't quite think that that's the case. I think it might just be the framing of the trailer here, but again, I mean, anything is possible. Trailers always lie, so you never really know. As far as the visuals are concerned, there's not too much to discuss right now. Obviously, as we've seen from the previous trailer, we have that same iconic style from Three Houses, just refined and expanded on, but the added gameplay footage that we've seen really shows off the power jump from the Switch 1 to the Switch 2, really emphasizing that there's a lot more that can be done with these games compared to the sometimes very crusty graphics in Three Houses. One of the most notable changes, though, is we can see we're actually getting 3D character models as characters' conversation portraits now. As we can see in a few different spots, their expressions change and their heads move during conversation to reflect what it is that they're saying and what they're feeling, which is honestly a sick detail, and I think is really going to bring some extra life to the portraits that Effie has always been known for. For the music, the big thing that we've heard, and I can't really play it here because, you know, Nintendo and soundtrack things with DMCA, you can't really do it, but we have a new arrangement of Together We Ride during the trailer that sounds absolutely incredible, one of the most classic pieces of Fire Emblem music in history, and of course, Sothis' theme returns during her scenes as well, further solidifying, you know, who the character is beyond just her voice, if that wasn't evidence enough. For our new characters, there's quite a few that we saw during the trailer, but can't really tell much about, let alone have names or classes or skill sets or anything for, but there are a couple of major takeaways that I pulled from the trailer that we're going to go through really quick. We have our first look at our proper red and green starting knights finally returning to proper armored glory, and it looks like this time they're actually an infantry or maybe a cavalry lance user, and one who definitely looks like an actual armor knight, which just feels appropriate if you're going to have someone who's like a guard for somebody. Don't know who these fine folks go with, if they just automatically get assigned to whoever you choose as a character or what, but it's cool to see that they're there. We then have a blue-haired archer named Ursula, which definitely is not going to be confusing for anyone who's a long-term fan of the series, thanks to the existence of Ursula from the Blazing Blade, who admittedly at least has purple hair to help differentiate her a little bit. But from her crest here that we can see in the bottom left corner of the screen, Ursula is a descendant of my girl Marianne. Fellow adherents of the Church of Marianne, we are so back. Our girl is involved in some small form, and I cannot wait to see what Ursula's character is going to be like. You can definitely see the familial correlation, even though it's obviously many generations removed at this point from when Marianne would have been kicking around and doing whatever she was doing post Three Houses. We also here have a purple-haired mage with no crest named Shirako. Fellow Gundam fans, you know that we need to keep an eye on this son of a bitch. I don't trust him. His smarmy face and his legacy of his name, they haunt me. I'm going to be very suspicious of this man. We also get a shot of this character, Nene, or Nine, I'm not sure on that one, being recruited by Letta in the same fashion as recruiting characters in Three Houses tends to work, though we don't actually see anything about her class or weapons here. She's got a really cool design, though. I'm assuming maybe a mage or something along those lines, but who really knows? Finally, at time of recording, the official Japanese Twitter account for Fire Emblem shared the portrait of this game's Anna. Whether she'll be playable is unknown, maybe she'll just be a merchant, but they've been making her playable again more recently, so this design, though, is great. It's a big step up from some past versions. She looks really stylish and like the wealthy merchant she should be, so I'm excited to see what she brings to the game. Finally, and here's the big one, we have to talk about some mechanics, and there's quite a bit to go through here. While, of course, we did know of the return of certain aspects from Three Houses, such as combat arts, the use weapon durability, we have a lot more details now about the gameplay and mechanics of Fortune's Weave as a whole. It is looking very similar to Three Houses in a lot of very good ways and very much refined, which is definitely good. As the story progresses, you will go through different phases of the tournament, similar to the calendar in Three Houses. Now, though, it appears that you have a set number of turns that can pass before you need to head to your next main mission. I presume this is to cut down on infinite grinding in certain maps and things like that, but you can see you have quite the span. 172 turns here, 200 turns there. There's going to be time for you to work with and get stuff done to work on your army. Also, like Three Houses, we can see here that we'll have to expend motivation to take on certain tasks, again, to prevent like infinite grinding and the like. So it's going to be important to plan out what it is that you want to do and how you're going to most efficiently get what you need from any given training or relaxation time. Now, during this time, you can hold one-on-one duels to gain levels in weapon XP, new combat arts, the like. You can go, like in the monastery, explore the capital of Dagestan to find new recruits, shop, spend time with your companions, build support, try and get new quests and complete side quests and all that fun stuff. And we can see from the previously mentioned recruitment of Nene that you'll actually be able to give gifts to help persuade potential recruits as well. Should be very familiar to anyone who's played Three Houses. However, unlike Three Houses, we're actually going to be able to leave the city during this sort of exploration training period, entering what looks almost to me like a roguelite style map with various icons and characters scattered all around it. I assume that this is where that turn count is really going to come into play as you expedition around the countryside and find enemies to fight, get treasure all looted up, get and potentially find more recruits, hit side objectives, all that fun stuff. Whether we'll be able to go back to an area that we had previously reached and continue from there the next time we're able to explore, if we're going to be starting directly from town every time, we don't yet know. We saw very little of this system, but I am extremely curious about it. We did see, though, that Letta here is exploring a dungeon, presumably that she found during this exploration phase, very similarly to Shadows of Valencia, something that we've not seen since that title, with a tracker at the top showing she has a certain number of treasure chests left to find in the area. We can also see here this sigil on the left with a total counter of HP, magic, and LP, which I'm not entirely sure. I don't think Letta's doing a Let's Play, as well as the name Rose Tempest and an average level of 16. Though I'm not sure if this is a tracker of your party's resources in the dungeon, or maybe an indicator of the health and strength of enemies inside the dungeon. We don't really know. We can, however, see here that we're able to attack on this screen as Letta runs around in free roam. So, putting it out there, we may even have a light action RPG section in these dungeons. Or more likely, we may just be able to hit a roaming enemy for an advantage by then going into the start of a traditional FE-style tactics battle and like having some damage on the enemies or something. Again, like Shadows of Valencia. That's a much more likely option, but it would be cool to get a little bit of a free roam combat thing going on. Regardless, though, the treasure that Letta finds is a sword, the Veronique, or Veronique, maybe, which provides the prune combat art and has 30 durability, as well as some pretty decent stats, if some relatively low accuracy. Given the fact that we've seen the cost for combat arts can be quite pricey in various different combat scenarios we've seen between the two trailers, I imagine that weapons are going to break quite regularly, and we're either going to be going out of our way to get plenty of new ones to replace that, or we're also going to be forging and repairing, again, much like Three Houses, which will all be important for finding and stocking up on a decent-sized armory. Really, it raises questions for me of just how many weapons you're going to want to have on a character during any given battle to make sure that you're actually able to keep up with the cost of these combat arts. But again, if it's anything like 3H and you can have iron weapons that have like 60 durability, then it'll probably be okay, but we'll have to see. Speaking of battles, there are also a few interesting details we can see here. I want to just highlight right off the cuff, there's a new large-sized enemy, the ones that take up 4 squares, which is an actual freaking war elephant, which is just cool as hell. We don't know exactly what it's going to do yet, but like, it's a war elephant, man. That is so sick. We can also see here that Ursula has a shockingly low hit rate when using this Deadeye combat art. It could be because she's using a longbow and they're not always the most accurate in Fire Emblem. It could also be a distance imposed penalty because of, she's attacking from further than the normal 2 squares away. Or it could even be an effect of the Deadeye skill itself. We weren't able to see it being activated really to see what the described effect was, so hands up on that one, we'll have to see, but it was like 43%, which is very surprisingly low. The arenas themselves, and these are possibly training battles, do look quite small, but they're very densely packed with enemy troops all over the place, and they're littered with a lot of terrain as well to be able to funnel enemies through, destructible obstacles to open new paths, all that fun stuff. And we even get a few more examples of the unique abilities that the 4 playable protagonists have in one of these battles as well. In particular, Kai shows off his strange hand magic blast thing, which does a frankly devastating amount of damage to a large group of enemies. To me, this further confirms that some abilities, which likely will be the ones that inflict curse, will be very strong to offset the negatives of curse. Though this could also just be something that was set up to look cool for the trailer, or maybe because Kai's a fairly high level here, going from 30 to 31, there's some other benefit that he's got that's letting him do this. Who really knows, but that's a lot of damage for a big AoE attack in a Fire Emblem game, even compared to some things like in Engage. Whew, nasty. Finally, we do get a few hints of the game's promotion system, which again looks nearly identical to that of Three Houses. You'll be able to level various different proficiencies with all the classics returning: your swords, axes, lances, bows, gauntlets, black and white magic, authority, mounted, armored, and flying proficiency, but we also have the inclusion of a new infantry or foot troop proficiency, so it seems that it won't be free to be a ground pounder anymore, which I think is fair enough. You got to train to be good on your feet with a weapon, just like you have to be able to train to be good in armor or on horseback, right? So it tracks. Once you raise these sufficiently, you will, of course, then be able to take on an attempted class change. We see that here with Theodora getting successfully changed to a Wyvern Knight. How many tiers of promotion there are, what other requirements there might be, like level, if any, have not been shown off yet for how this promotion system is going to work. But again, like many other things we've mentioned in this video, if you're familiar with the way that Three Houses works, you're probably going to be quite familiar with how it works here in Fortune's Weave. And as of right now, at time of recording, that's all the information I've been able to glean from what has been revealed to us by Nintendo and Intelligent Systems thus far. I'm sure we're going to get a lot more info coming out over the coming days. I will for sure be doing more videos about those as that info drops. And if there's anything that I missed in this trailer that you feel I should know or highlight, do let me know. If it's big enough, again, I'll do a follow-up video, or I can put it in like a pinned comment or something like that. I am absolutely insanely hyped about this, though. I was posting about it on Twitter, but I was actually getting kind of emotional when I was doing this analysis because it feels like we're coming home. It doesn't matter that we're on a different continent. It doesn't matter that it's been almost 300 years since the events of Three Houses. I just love this setting for the franchise. I think it's a really cool, unique zone and world and culture that we're going to now in Dagda, and I'm very curious to see how the threads that we know from the past with Three Houses, such as, Sothis and potentially the Sword of the Creator, what's going on with Fodlan. I want to know all that type of stuff. I've been itching for more in that world, and I was left so disappointed in so many ways by Engage. I'm very eager to get back into things here. Of course, though, I'm extremely curious to hear what you guys have to say and what your thoughts are. Do strike up some good, healthy conversations in the comments. I'll be looking at them and responding to the things that I feel are worth talking about or that just catch my eye, so we can have some good conversations down there. And for those of you who are trying to get a hold of the special edition, good luck. I got mine. For now, though, I think I'm going to wrap this one up here. My name has been Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. Thank you all so very much for watching. I hope that you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there, everyone. And remember, be good to each other, y'all. Bye now.